Joining me now is Hassan El-Tayyab. He's the legislative representative for Middle East policy at FCNL. And boy, there's a lot to talk about today, Hassan, especially in regards to the defense authorization. So welcome to the Young Turks, and jump right in, if you will. What happened with the Democrats authorizing Trump's Pentagon budget?
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm a huge fan of the show. So the National Defense Authorization Act conference report just wrapped up on Monday, and they've been in negotiations for several months at this point, and we were trying to figure out what provisions would stay in the bill. There were a lot of progressive priorities in the House version of the bill, not so much on the Senate side. Now, unfortunately, this bill, the top line number was about $738 billion. So we were expecting and hoping that there would be some real checks on Trump's authority and the Pentagon to declare war. And unfortunately, Congress really failed to reassert any of its war authority, and they lost so many of these really important provisions to end U.S. support for the Saudi-UAE war in Yemen, to prevent Trump from launching an unauthorized war on Iran, to repeal the 2002 Iraq AUMF, which we haven't used in about 8 years or so. So the list goes on, but unfortunately, this bill just falls very short. And FCNL is doing, along with our other peace activist friends and allies, we're trying to get a big no vote tomorrow on the bill.
So every expert seems to agree this is a total cave-in, almost 100%. There's a provision here unrelated to the military completely about family leave, which I'm happy to have, but has nothing to do with this bill. But you're the expert, so that's why I want to ask you: is that analysis correct? That on the issue of foreign policy and defense and the Pentagon, the Democrats get a single concession?
So you mentioned paid family leave. While that is, we can definitely applaud that, but that is a domestic policy priority that could have been taken up in so many other vehicles, on the appropriation side. So, but we're talking about the defense policy bill, the Pentagon bill, and Congress really missed an opportunity to reassert itself over war and peace issues. And again, like ending U.S. support for the Saudi-UAE war in Yemen. Like I've been on your show several times actually talking about this, and we've made so much progress. Democrats came out in droves, and voters came out in droves to, give Democrats a House majority, for the sole purpose of putting a check on the Trump administration and trying to rein in, some of the things that we haven't really liked that we've been seeing. And this NDAA was one of the biggest tests so far. And, I totally agree it falls way short. I mean, there were things in there that we can point to that I would say are steps in the right direction, and overall that's probably what HASC would tell you, the House Armed Services Committee, and there's some truth to that, but overall I think to me it just seems like a capitulation.
Yeah. So did they knock down even a penny from Trump's budget request overall for the Pentagon?
Well, so they didn't come at the same number. The Republicans wanted $750 billion. Democrats wanted $738 billion. Again, that's exactly what the Pentagon asked for, and I think they settled on $741 billion. But there was
what a bunch of losers. Okay, sorry, that's my opinion. So the Pentagon said, I just want to get the facts straight though. The Pentagon said $738 billion. And the Democrats compromised to $741 billion, a higher number.
That's correct. So they did increase the top line number. I mean, there was a lot of stuff like that in this bill. There was, funding the F-35 project. There was actually more F-35s than the Pentagon even wanted in this bill. So there's a lot of that to go around, and unfortunately, that's what That's what we're dealing with. That's why we really need everyone to come out. I mean, if Democrats and Republicans actually really care about reining in the Pentagon and reasserting constitutional war authority, I mean, they can come together and topple this bill tomorrow. And I would urge all of your viewers out there to pick up the phone. FCNL established a hotline, 1-833-STOP-WAR, and that'll connect you to your member and give you what to say on the National Defense Authorization Act and urging your member to vote no. And I think that's really critical that we come together. And, I think that we can topple this bill, but even getting a really solid vote just sends a message that, that the American people don't want endless wars anymore.
So look, I love what you guys are doing. I don't want to discourage it. In fact, I want to encourage it. So it's important that everybody call that number because even if your representative doesn't vote the way that you want them to, at least let them know they're supposed to represent you and let them know we didn't send you there to help Donald Trump. We sent you there to fight Donald Trump. So please stop giving him more than he even asked for. It's just unreal, unreal. Look, as a political analyst, I'm gonna keep it real with you. The chance of enough Democrats voting no is nearly non-existent. They always bow their heads to Nancy Pelosi, and whatever corporate leadership wants, corporate leadership gets. And this is corporate through and through. And so they're all gonna get money from defense contractors, right? And so they're going to keep piling that money in. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. Do you think it's a factor for Republican politicians? I'm not even having that conversation. It's the only factor. It's anyone who says otherwise is a liar. So I'm not interested in that conversation. So, but for Democratic politicians, how much of a factor do you think that they take money from defense contractors?
Well, there's no question that money in politics plays a huge role in the decisions that are being made by our members of Congress right now. And yeah, of course, and it goes beyond just direct contributions. I mean, the military-industrial complex and the weapons contractors, they've strategically put themselves in each of these districts. So, it's essentially a big jobs program, but unfortunately, the jobs are to keep perpetuating war. So I think there's another way. I think that we can invest in the American people. I think we can invest in our infrastructure, and that there are other ways to create jobs. But right now, as it exists, we're in a lot of trouble because this bloated Pentagon budget just continues to get bigger and bigger, and more wars as a result.
Okay. So how many lives are in danger in Yemen because we've decided that we're going to do whatever Saudi Arabia tells us to do?
So the war in Yemen is devastating. Now, I've been on the Young Turks, I think, starting back since the beginning of the Yemen War Powers Resolution. And there have been about 14 million people on the brink of famine, in the past several years. We've got 1 million cases of cholera, 10,000 new cases each week. I mean, the UN says Yemen's the worst place in the world to be a child. About every 10 minutes, a child dies in Yemen from hunger and famine. So, I mean, the numbers are devastating. Now, with all the congressional pressure that we've seen, we've actually seen major breakthroughs and major progress in the peace talks between Saudi Arabia and the Houthis. And that's something that Congress should be proud of, actually, by reasserting its war authority, by passing for the first time the Yemen War Powers Resolution in April. We saw the UAE, they look at that vote and they said, oh, we better draw down our presence in Yemen. That caused Sudan to draw down their presence in Yemen as well. And then Trump is, wanting to continue that, but the, MBS and the leaders of the UAE and Saudi Arabia, I mean, they see the writing on the wall that there are bipartisan, bicameral majorities that want to end the war. And, they saw the House passed provisions in the NDAA, and they were worried as well. So now I should mention that in January, the Saudi Arabian government and the Houthis are going to meet in Kuwait to try to bang out a peace deal. And, this could be a really good sign that we are heading towards a more peaceful, prosperous time in Yemen where there is a ceasefire, an end to the blockade. But I'm so worried that they may look at this vote, this NDAA, that does really nothing meaningful to check the war in Yemen, to end our logistical support, to end our weapons sales, and they may say, well, maybe let's make a recalculation. Maybe it's not as pressing as we once thought to end the war.
Yeah, if we withdrew support from that war, they'd have peace far quicker. Almost no question about that. As usual, Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna are fighting against this authorization and against this bill and urging a no vote for all the reasons that you laid out. Last question real quick. The war authorization they're also not taking away. Do you think that it's possible that they're doing that so they could preserve the right to unilaterally attack Iran?
The 2002 Iraq AUMF repeal, absolutely. The Trump administration has basically said that they would like to use this in case they want to have an authorization to go after Iran, and that's just ridiculous. If Trump wants to go to war with Iran, Article 1, Section 8 is absolutely clear. He needs to come to Congress and get an authorization. Obviously, as a peace group, we would recommend against that, but at the very least, we need to reassert the war authority that's been given through the Constitution. And the 2002 Iraq AUMF is completely outdated, and it needs to be repealed.
All right, Hassan El-Tayyab, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you so much.